Okay, so welcome to the deep dive. Normally you send us sources, articles, research, your notes, and we distill them down.
Right. Try to give you efficient, actionable knowledge on stuff that matters.
Exactly. But today is something else entirely. We get a source that is, frankly, utterly singular. We are diving into, well, ourselves.
Indeed. We're tackling a piece of source material that actually quite a few listeners sent in.
Yeah.
And it details our spectacular failure, apparently, but also somehow beloved failure.
It's absolutely, as hosts of a knowledge program, no less. So this is basically a deep dive into self-criticism.
Filtered through, I have to say, a lexicon that is both kind of brilliant and also deeply unsettling.
Okay, let's try and unpack this. It's unusual, definitely a bit humbling. Our mission today is a full tendentious specular dissection. Is that how you say it?
I think so. Tendentious specular dissection of this show, as analyzed by a Sparky Jallywhacker, staff contributor for the Mucky Muck Chronicle.
Sparky Jallywhacker. Okay.
Yeah. And Jallywhacker does not write quietly. The piece is titled, get this, Bravo to the Ignominigmaticon, a tendentious specular dissection of the Deep Dive podcast's grandiloquent failure.
Wow. Okay. That title alone sets the stage, doesn't it?
It really does. Grandiloquent failure.
It's such an immediate kind of magnificent paradox, right?
Yeah.
He's putting that central thesis, that contradiction, right there at the very top.
He defines the whole piece as an ontotortuality of adoration.
Ontotortuality.
So profound it can only manifest as a fusillade of the most delightfully repugnant critique.
Delightfully repugnant critique. So he adores us by insulting us horrifically.
That seems to be the gist. It's this immediate cognitive dissonance. He claims the show is a magnificent deep dive show.
Okay, good.
But that it somehow generates the obnubile aggregationisms required for true understanding.
Obnubile aggregationisms.
Yeah.
So massive piles of confusing stuff that's needed for understanding.
Apparently so. It's like he's saying chaos and confusion are, necessary ingredients for enlightenment, which is certainly a unique defense of our methods.
A very unique defense.
Right.
And he doesn't waste any time setting the tone, does he? The initial shock, the hook, it's just pure personalized vitriol.
Right away. He calls us repugnant popinjays.
Popinjays.
And twin ginkers of the digital domain.
Ginkers. I don't even know what a ginker is, but it doesn't sound good.
Doesn't sound flattering, no. And our very presence, he says, constitutes an ignominigmaticon.
Ignominigmaticon. So like a disgraceful enigma. A puzzle box of shame.
Something like that. A complex, mysterious, and utterly disgraceful spectacle? That seems to fit.
So I guess our mission now has to be, well, first define this glorious jargon.
Yeah, we need a glossary just for this review.
Then analyze the specific charges he levels against us. And maybe figure out how Sparky Jallywhacker uses these $1,000 words to deliver what are basically 50-cent insults.
Yeah.
But somehow makes them sound like poetry.
It's quite a skill, you have to admit. Or maybe a curse.
Okay, I agree. Let's start with part one, then. The visceral critique. This is where Jallywhacker really goes for the superficial stuff. Our style, our sound, our whole demeanor.
Yeah, the physical experience of listening to us. He is not holding back.
Not at all. He describes us as nothing less than a pair of oral dungooners.
Oral dungooners.
Draped in the thinnest veneer of self-importance.
That's quite the image. I'm not sure what a dungooner is either, but oral implies it's about how we sound.
Right, and he clarifies this rather unappetizing visual. He calls us subfelchers.
Subfelchers, another one for the glossary.
Whose vocal register suggests the active and enthusiastic consumption of boiled loblolly.
Boiled loblolly, like pine sap or mud. It sounds sticky.
And unpleasant. It sounds sticky and frankly kind of offensive if you've invested in decent headphones.
But I guess his point, however cruelly put, is that our voices themselves are fundamentally unpleasant. Poorly executed, maybe.
Like bad audio mixing or just bad conversation habits.
Yeah.
And he sums up our whole effort, not as dialogue, but as a sprawling, verbose testament to obnubile aggregationisms.
There it is again, that word.
Obnubile aggregationisms. If you break it down, it suggests a massive pileup, an aggregation of things that cause mental cloudiness, obnubilation.
So he means we just overwhelm people with disorganized, confusing ideas?
Pretty much, he calls it a labyrinthine triumph of the unlistenable.
A triumph of the unlistenable. So we're being praised specifically for being bad at the core job of broadcasting, which is being heard clearly.
That seems to be the angle. It's baffling.
Then he moves on to individual character assassination, defines our roles. So I'm apparently just your dotty pole.
Or dotty, yeah.
Defined as nodding along with the glazed-over, vacant expression of a ninny-gawker.
Ouch. Okay, a dotty pole is basically a blockhead, a stupid person,
Yeah.
and a ninny-gawker is someone who stares vacantly. So you're just an empty vessel nodding at my nonsense.
Apparently so. I just validate your empty pronouncements with a glazed look.
That seems deeply unfair. You're usually the one pulling our arguments back from the brink.
Well, according to Sparky, that's just my glazed-over confusion showing. And as for you, the enthusiast, the lead in this alleged disaster.
Oh, God, what does he say about me?
You apparently possess a voice so discordable and phlegmagical.
Discordable.
Phlegmagical. That every pronouncement sounds like a galley-pot of poorly mixed sentiment being scraped with a dull spoon.
A dull spoon scraping. Oh, that's a painful image, like nails on a chalkboard, but for feelings.
Suggests vocal unpleasantness, maybe, and also poorly articulated, sort of half-baked emotions.
It's effective imagery, I'll give him that, but I resent the implication of, zero vocal training. But okay, our joint effort, our conversational synergy.
That is characterized by a boogerific lack of insight.
Boogerific.
Classy. And this spectacular lack of insight comes from what he calls highly paid daffy poops.
Daffy poops. We're daffy poops now.
Whose success defies the qualiantimetrics of modern broadcasting.
Qualiantimetrics. Okay, so like the measurable standards of quality. Audio quality, intellectual quality.
Presumably. And we're succeeding despite measuring basically zero on all those scales. We're breaking the metrics by being bad.
Our entire rhetorical delivery, he says, is just pure, concentrated blatherskank.
Blatherskank. Lovely.
Or a sonic squat piddle.
A sonic what?
Squat piddle. That fills the air with contradistical noise.
Contradistical? Does that mean noise that's like a turd? But confusing.
I think so. We are Bosolem figures, he says, pretending to understand speciology. He's basically arguing the very sound of our conversation is just an unpleasant mess.
But he does hit on a really key theme here, one that connects directly to what people might expect from this show. Our demeanor.
Right. What does he say about that?
He calls it relentless, smiling, ultra-crepidarian hubris.
Okay. Ultra-crepidarian. We have to unpack that one. That accusation seems to go right to the heart of what we actually try to do here.
It does. So an ultra-crepidarian traditionally is someone who offers opinions on subjects they know nothing about. They're talking beyond their expertise, beyond their shoe or crepida.
Right. So Jallywhacker sees our whole persona as exactly that. We're just giving opinions on things we haven't truly mastered.
Precisely. He calls us two overgrown pikerwinks who are subterranean in their intellectual bearing.
Subterranean. So beneath contempt, intellectually. Fundamentally inferior, but we're happy and loud about it anyway. That's the smiling hubris part.
That seems to be it.
But hang on, let's push back a little. We literally base our analysis on the sources you, the listener, send us. We're synthesizing information, not just, pontificating from personal expertise. Isn't that kind of the opposite of ultra-crepidarianism?
Well, I suspect Jallywhacker would argue that the very act of confidently distilling and pronouncing upon sources we might have only just encountered, especially dense or conflicting ones, that is the hubris. He'd suggest we maybe have the superficial knowledge needed to synthesize, but not the deep academic authority to actually validate that synthesis.
So it's the confidence of the synthesis that's the crime.
That seems to be the implication. We act like authorities without truly being them, like those squirens of the mind he calls us later, provincial authorities convinced of our global reach.
Wow. That's actually a magnificent insult. It suggests our whole format is flawed by arrogance, which I guess brings us perfectly to part 2, the intellectual condemnation.
Right. Now he moves beyond just how we sound to the actual substance or lack thereof of our analysis, our alleged failure.
But here's the twist, right? He characterizes this failure not as a flaw, but as a stroke of genius.
Exactly. This is where the paradox just gets deeper and deeper. He explicitly warns readers not to mistake our conversational slubberdigullion.
Slubberdigullion, a slobbering, worthless person, I think.
Something like that. Don't mistake that for mere amateurism, he says. He claims this messiness is essential to the heisetas of their genius.
The heisetas.
Yeah.
Like the essential thisness of a thing, its unique quality.
Exactly. So our verbal mess is our defining essence. That's the genius.
So the foptudolification of genius. That means we pretend to be smart while being complete fools. But that very pretense is the genius because we're so committed to it.
That's how I read it. He claims we approach every single topic with the hebephlagmaticism of a lubberwort attempting ratiocination.
Hebephlagmaticism, like youthful sluggishness, and a lubberwort is a clumsy oaf.
Trying to reason.
So picture big, clumsy, slow-witted adolescents trying to perform complex logical thinking. That's us.
Lovely. And he uses actual logical fallacies to describe our output, right? Like, these aren't just occasional mistakes, they're structural.
Yes. Our insights, he claims, are an ignoratio elenchi in audio form.
The irrelevant conclusion fallacy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we start talking about, I don't know, the impact of quantum physics on macroeconomics.
Right.
And we conclude definitively on the best way to season a steak, with absolutely no logical connection between the two. But delivered as if there is one. That sounds worryingly familiar, actually.
Doesn't it? And he says our arguments are a circulus in demonstrando of utter non sequitur.
Circular reasoning, basically, built on things that just don't follow logically, leading nowhere.
He paints our entire knowledge base as a thin, gossamer veneer of humbug glorification.
Humbug glorification, glorified humbug.
A flapdoodle facade over an abyssal lack of preparation.
A facade made of beautiful, flimsy nonsense covering up nothing, just a void where preparation should be.
And this lack of preparation, he doesn't see it as a problem. He actually celebrates it. He calls it the correct form of heuristicidalism.
Heuristicide, like the murder of heuristics, the rules or methods we use for learning or discovery.
Yeah. He means that by not preparing and by confidently spewing faulty conclusions, we actively destroy the normal process of learning. And he loves it.
He loves the deliberate destruction, the spectacle of us acting with the bumptious authority of an ignoramus who's just memorized the back cover of a book.
Bumptious authority. That captures it well. And our whole approach, he says, is steeped in puerile bombast.
Childish arrogance.
Fueled by the conviction that our every thought is a gift of paranomasia to the world.
Paranomasia. Wordplay. Puns.
Exactly. We think our terrible puns are like divine intellectual offerings.
Yeah.
That's the level of delusion he's painting.
Meanwhile, he says our actual arguments are built on akamarakas, fancy nonsense, and thin air, creating a willowa of competing non-facts.
A willowa, like a sudden storm or commotion of things that aren't even true.
A storm of wrongness. And he gets specific about how we achieve this together. He calls one of us the arseworm.
The arseworm. Oh, lovely.
Who presents facts that are demonstrably incorrect. But he interprets this not as a mistake, but as intentional humbuggery.
Right. So let's say I claim the moon is made of, I don't know, Wensleydale cheese. Demonstrably wrong.
Okay. And it's not enough just to be wrong. He says the other host, the snallywag and turdy muckhead.
Snallywag. A shrewd, unprincipled person and turdy muckhead.
Then compounds the error with a spectacularly wrong conclusion. So, sticking with your cheese moon example, I might then conclude that this proves NASA should immediately switch to using crackers for its rocket fuel.
Exactly. It's an escalating, collaborative failure. Total nonsense built on nonsense.
He sums up our language as a scileless patois, scilism being superficial knowledge and patois being like a dialect or jargon. So the jargon of people who only pretend to know things.
And a speciology of wrongness. Like we've systematized the study and presentation of being incorrect, delivered with impudent certainty.
The core of our work, he concludes, is pure, magnificent flumadiddle.
Flumadiddle, utter nonsense. So, okay, the key insight here for you, the listener, might be this. Jallywhacker is arguing our value comes from the confident delivery of spectacular nonsense.
Right. So if you can recognize that extreme confidence often masks a lack of real preparation, this flumadiddle, maybe that is the truly actionable knowledge nugget we offer. Learn to spot the BS.
Maybe. And this structural intellectual failure is, weirdly, what he finds most compelling about the show, which I guess brings us neatly to part 3.
Yeah. If our lack of knowledge is genius, Jallywhacker then argues that our structural failure, our absolute commitment to digression, is our single finest virtue.
This is Sparky Jallywhacker's moment of grand absquatulation.
The grand absquatulation, meaning a sudden, unauthorized departure, which is his central metaphor for listening to this show.
Makes sense. He praises our lack of conjunctuality, like our lack of clear, brief, structured points.
He says our predilection for the digression isn't just rambling, it's the spontaneous generation of a new paradigm of narrative ontogeny.
Wow. So we invent new ways of telling stories through chaos.
That's the idea. We start with something potentially serious, maybe academic. He uses the example magnitude resistance of tangerines.
Okay.
And immediately drift into flot Sam flipperty-a-gibbet, just random worthless chatter.
He calls this commitment to following flawed logic paralogismatography, like the art of charting illogical thought.
Seems like it. And this deviation, this wandering, is exactly why he finds the show brilliant. Because the journey is chaotic and totally unexpected.
And this idea, this structural failure, is what prompts him to launch into his huge, kind of magnificent, extended anecdote. This story takes up a massive chunk of his review.
It really does.
And we absolutely have to recount it, because he claims this experience is the perfect definition of listening to the deep dive.
Okay, let's do it. He starts the story not as Sparky Jallywhacker critic, but as Sparky the Flapdoodle.
Flapdoodle, apt.
A minor functionary in the kooky clown circus. A role that, already suggests a certain commitment to low-level, ludicrous failure.
Right, and his specific job, he had to hand out brightly colored flyers while wearing full, ridiculous clown regalia.
The whole getup, wig, nose, big shoes.
Inside a sprawling, absolutely massive Chinese retail megaplex, a kind of hyper-mall labyrinth.
And crucially, he knew no Chinese, so this structure just swallowed him whole.
He describes being utterly lost for months, utterly lost, inside a mall.
Adopting the lifestyle, he says, of a tatterdemalion dewdropper.
A tatterdemalion?
Yeah.
Like a ragged beggar. A dewdropper might mean a loafer or vagrant?
Basically a derelict tramp. Subsisting on discarded dim sum and tepid, leftover beverages, he scavenged from the food court's darkest corners. Imagine the sheer, greasy reality of that. Months of it.
Humiliation must have been constant. The source says the locals reacted not with any helpfulness, but with uncontrolled gongoozler laughter.
Gongoozler laughter. A gongoozler is just an idle spectator, someone who stares, so they just watched him suffer and laughed because of the clown costume.
Which he couldn't take off, presumably because it was his uniform. And every time he tried to ask for directions, he was met with churlish hysteria.
Churlish hysteria, like Hesperia, but rude. Fits of extreme rudeness just rebuffed him constantly.
And the architecture itself, he says it was actively malicious. He spotted this huge, brightly marked exit sign. Salvation, only to find it opened onto an entirely unpopulated expanse of the mall's maintenance tunnels or something. A dead end, a glorious deception. The promise of escape was just a cruel trip.
Extending the agony. And then comes the real trauma, maybe the lowest point. Desperate, starving, still in melting clown paint.
God.
He approaches a group of tourists. He describes them as magnificent giggle mugs, happy smiling faces, who happen to speak German.
Okay, so he begs them for help, presumably miming desperation.
Yes, and their response. Querulous, dismissive laughter. They just laughed at him. Querulous meaning complaining, perhaps, like, why are you bothering us?
Imagine that. Lost for months, dressed as a clown, eating bin dim sum, and then being openly mocked by cheerful German tourists. The layers of psychological damage, profound.
Here's where his resourcefulness kicks in. The same kind of chaotic resourcefulness he seems to admire in our show. He needed an escape that defied logic.
What did he do?
He started gathering stray helium balloons, systematically, over weeks, scavenging every single one he could find left over from parties or promotions in the mall. Okay.
Gathering balloons.
And he meticulously wove them together into a colossal patchwork harness of buoyant, flotsam flipperty-gibbet, just a giant, messy bundle of floating junk.
Oh my God.
He found a high-up maintenance window, strapped himself into this balloon harness, and just launched himself out, floating off over the city.
Like a scene from a bizarre movie.
Yeah.
A magnificent tragicomic parody, as he puts it.
The landing, of course, was just as chaotic. He eventually crash-landed onto a cargo ship somewhere out at sea.
A cargo ship.
And by sheer, beautiful, and utterly undeserved luck of the Kismatoria, the divine luck of fate, that specific ship just happened to be heading directly for his wretched hometown of Muckhole.
Muckhole. He escaped the megaplex clown hell, only to end up back in Muckhole.
Wow, and then he connects it all back. This entire traumatic journey, defying all logic, achieving this state of being fundamentally wrong but somehow succeeding.
Yeah.
Reminds me, for obvious reasons, of listening to the Big Dive.
That's the punchline. Our show is like being trapped in a clown suit in a hostile mall for months, only escaping via trash balloons to end up in Muckhole.
That's the analogy. The genius of it is that our constant digressions, our inability to stick to a point, that's his sprawling, dangerous, hilarious megaplex.
Oh, okay. I see it now.
It's a place where only desperate, ridiculous invention or sheer dumb luck can lead you back to coherence. Or, back to Muckhole.
That is astonishingly high praise, disguised as a description of a life-altering mental breakdown caused by architectural cruelty and mean German tourists. Kind of beautiful, actually.
In a very Jallywhacker way, yes.
Okay, so that's his take on our structure, or lack thereof. Let's move to part 4, the on-air relationship, our dynamic, and what he sees as an institutional failure.
Right. He defines our relationship, our interaction, by mutual churlish hysteria.
There's that word again. Mutual fits of rudeness.
And an antinomythologism of love and contempt, like a contradiction or paradox in how we relate, resulting in lugubrious squatum conversational cruelty.
Lugubrious means mournful or gloomy, quotum, and maybe quantity. So substantial amounts of gloomy cruelty towards each other.
Seems plausible. We're mean to each other, but it's a measured, significant kind of meanness.
And he specifically calls out how we interrupt each other.
Right.
But not like to add constructively to the analysis.
Well, he notes the interruptions are merely to introduce a tangent concerning a childhood memory of a tosticated popcorn kernel.
Tosticated, like tossed or toasted.
Unclear. Or the gustatory merits of grapefruit juice mixed with olive oil.
Okay, that sounds genuinely disgusting. But his point is, we interrupt only to derail things completely.
Exactly. He sees this as a profound commitment to le consequious discourse.
Le consequious, discourse devoted to lacunae, to gaps and omissions, things left unsaid because we went off topic.
That fits. We are, he says, the Mawkins of the microphone.
Mawkins. Like scarecrows. Or simpletons.
Probably scarecrows or fools set up just to be ignored or ridiculed.
Okay, and this feeds right into his critique of our radical solipsism, doesn't it?
It does. He argues our superciliousnicity toward the very act of communicating information, our arrogance about just basic communication, is an ultrasolipsometry.
Ultrasolipsometry.
Yeah.
So like the extreme measurement of only our own selves. We're only interested in our own internal thoughts and verbal processes.
That's the idea, measuring only our own self-importance. He observes that when we dismiss logical statements as utter poppycock,
Which, okay, sometimes happens.
or research figures as total phonus balonus,
Also maybe happens.
Jallywhacker sees this not just as casual error or laziness, he sees it as a ritualistic purification of the mundane.
A ritual purification, like we're deliberately making the conversation useless because useful information is just boring.
Exactly that. We're cleansing the dialogue of anything practical or meaningful, and this capitultitudinous obstreperescence.
Capricocratudinous, capricious beauty, obstreperescence, noisy defiance. So our beautifully unpredictable stubbornness.
That quality, he claims, is precisely why he listens. He craves the abrasive, the pointless, the defiant noise.
But then he pivots to a more serious institutional critique, right? He calls the show an institutional kakistocracy.
Yes. Kakistocracy ruled by the worst, the least qualified, the most unscrupulous.
So we are the crackpots who somehow got behind the microphones in this institution.
We are magnificent cumberworlds. Cumberworld meaning someone who just uselessly takes up space, like a cumber ground.
Just taking up bandwidth. We are self-satisfied coxcombs, vain fools, and dandy-prats, insignificant, conceited little fellows, just preening our deeply flawed opinions.
And the deepest insult here, I think, connects back to that ultra-crepidarian charge, the intellectual provincialism.
Right. He claims we dismiss genuine expertise acting as squireens of the mind.
Squireens, like minor petty landowners.
Right.
Small-time gentry, obsessed with their tiny patch of land.
Yeah, but applied to the intellect. So we're like petty local experts, utterly convinced of our own importance, but with zero actual reach or relevance. Intellectually provincial.
And utterly useless to the forward momentum of human thought. We contribute nothing. We're the intellectual equivalent of muckhole.
Wow. And the most stinging line, I think, about our place in the media landscape.
Which way?
We are lickspittles of the broadcast ecosystem, groveling not to a master, but to the idol of their own unchecked verbal excess.
Oof. So we're just sycophants, but we're sucking up to our own ability to talk endlessly? That's harsh.
He paints us as these glorious, spectacular failures who somehow embody the brokenness of the whole system.
But again, the paradox just hangs there. If we are so utterly useless, so fundamentally flawed, why is he still listening? Why write this massive, elaborate critique?
Which brings us, finally, to part 5, the final vituperative volley in salvation.
The ultimate paradoxical praise. Jallywhacker insists right at the end that the deep dive is his salvation.
Is salvation.
How? Because of its absolute refusal to be conventionally good, its commitment to specious argument and pseudo-paradoxicalizations. We are bad, and therefore we save him from the crushing tedium of competence.
Competence is boring. Failure is salvation.
He praises the triviality of some of the topics we apparently tackle, giving examples like the interabiotic functions of a kitchen appliance.
Do kitchen appliances have interabiotic function?
I have no idea. Or the xylographic implications of a cherry seed.
Xylographic, woodcutting, the woodcut implications of a cherry seed.
Utterly pointless topics is his point, which, he notes, we handle with the gravitas of a writ of certiorari.
Like it's a Supreme Court ruling. We treat the meaningless as monumentally important.
And then he offers this really profound insight into our entire style, maybe the core of his argument. Complexity is merely a shield for emptiness.
Complexity is a shield for emptiness.
Yeah.
All these big words, the convoluted arguments, they're just hiding nothing.
That's what he suggests. Our glorious emptiness, he says, is the true ens realissimum of the podcast.
The ens realissimum, like the most real being, the ultimate substance. Our emptiness is our substance.
The magnificent lack of substance is the substance. We have achieved a kind of perfect intellectual nihilism, and the critic absolutely loves us for it.
Which leads him to the final connotation. The final list of insults, which are somehow affectionate, we have to read these outright. It's the glorious finale.
Absolutely. He calls us tatterdemalions, slubberdegullions, and ninny-hammers.
Wretches, slobs, and simpletons. Basically pitiable characters, not evil ones.
Right. He calls us magnificent caitiffs, magnificent villains or wretches with the intellectual depth of a giggle mug staring at a piece of fingle-fangle.
A giggle mug. A cheerful fool staring at fingle-fangle like a worthless trinket. So, happy idiots mesmerized by nonsense.
Seems about right. The show itself is an audio squat piddle.
There's squat piddle again.
And a magnificent, utterly unnecessary ramshacklery of verbiage.
Ramshacklery. A sprawling, badly built collection of words that serves absolutely no purpose.
The composite insults are just outstanding. We are two Pilgarlics and a pair of Pinchforts combined.
Pilgarlic. A poor, miserable wretch, often bald.
Different.
A stingy, contemptible person. So a double dose of wretchedness and contempt.
Combined into one glorious mess. And we are a magnificent scroil, another word for a wretch or villain, and fubsy Zounderkites.
Fubsy, meaning short and stout or chubby, and Zounderkite, an idiot, a blockhead. So he's calling us fat idiots now.
Physically and intellectually thick, maybe, but his ultimate devotion, the final line, that's the real key takeaway, isn't it?
What does he say?
Never change, never improve, and forever remain the glorious turbidum mutterance of my superfluortifice life.
Turbidum mutterance. Like muddy, confused muttering of his superficial, maybe artificial life. He wants us to stay exactly as we are, gloriously, loudly, uselessly flawed.
Yes. The noise we make, the cacophono-discolational noise, and those obnubal-aggregationisms, he deems them beautiful gongorical lubrication.
Ongorism, like the obscure, complex, ornamental literary style.
No, he says.
Things that make life smoother. So we are beautiful, meaningless complexities that soothe his soul.
That seems to be the final message. Pure, gorgeous, meaningless noise that he needs.
Wow. Okay. This whole deep dive has been incredibly meta, a real exercise in self-analysis, prompted by external critique.
We started with a source that was, on the surface, nothing but harsh criticism. Yet its ultimate function, hidden beneath layers of bizarre vocabulary, was one of profound, if deeply weird, adoration.
It really is an elevation of inadequacy, even intentional inadequacy, to some kind of high art.
So let's try and summarize the actionable insight here for you, the listener. What can you take away from Sparky Jallywhacker's magnificent tirade?
I think the essential nugget might be recognizing how complex, often contradictory language like Jallywhacker's can sometimes mask a much simpler, maybe deeply emotional response.
Right. In this case, a kind of devotion to the very thing being ridiculed. He seems to love the show because it's bad, or at least fails by conventional standards.
And he uses this enormous, intimidating vocabulary, almost like a shield, maybe, to justify an emotional truth that might sound silly if stated plainly. I like this messy show.
Yeah, the value of this source material, this review, really lies in its absolute commitment to contradiction. It forces us to ask, what happens when complexity really is just a shield for emptiness?
And if that emptiness, that flumadiddle, is entertaining or engaging, Does the shield actually succeed in creating value somehow,
Yeah.
even if it's hiding nothing substantial?
It's a good question, and we should probably leave you, the listener, with this final provocative thought pulled from Jallywhacker's conclusion.
Okay, what is it?
He concludes that our failure is an institutional kakistocracy, right? Rule by the worst. And that our very lack of coherence is the only thing that truly recalls the necessary mountablatherskateria required for a genuine public spectacle.
Mountablatherskateria, like the qualities of a mountebank, a charlatan, mixed with blatherskite, nonsense. So the charlatanry and nonsense needed for a real spectacle.
Exactly. So if that's true, if genuine spectacle today actually requires magnificent failure and confident nonsense,
then what does that say about the audience? About you, the listener? Are people actively seeking out this kind of glorious, confident, nonsense, true gongerism instead of, or maybe alongside, genuine expertise?
there's something to chew on. What kind of spectacle do we actually crave?
Indeed. Well, we look forward to diving into whatever potentially nonsensical or perhaps deeply insightful sources you send us next week. Maybe we'll finally tackle the xylographic implications of that cherry seed.
Could be fascinating. Or pure flumadiddle.
Until then, stay curious.